Hey everybody, welcome back to the second video of this Python tutorial. I'm going to be quickly going over what we covered in the last video and then quickly going over what we're going to cover today, and then we'll go ahead and get right into it. So last video we covered three different types of variables. We covered strings, we covered integers, and we covered floats, and we were utilizing the print function in order to print the values out of these variables. In addition to that, we were also printing out these variables with specific text that we wanted in order to make sense of the things we were writing. And if you haven't seen it already, I'll go ahead and put some link somewhere on this video and you can go ahead and check that out. But today we're going to be covering how to take an input from the user. So for example, in the last video we created some variables, for example like name, and we set that equal to some value. In this case we set it equal to Winston. But let's say we don't know what the value of name is. We want the user to be able to input it. So we want, my mouse is messing up. So we want the user to essentially be asked a question. So something like, hey, what is your name? And then they would enter something like, oh, my name is Winston. So that means, in this case, the value of Winston would be set equal to name, right? So we want something that's able to do that, like that. Okay, so to do that, what we need to do is we need to utilize the input function. Now, instead of setting the variable name equal to some value, whatever we want, we're going to set it equal to some input. So to do that, we just have to use the input function, just like that. And this signals to Python like, okay, I want the variable name to be equal to whatever the user inputs. Now, if we ran this program like this, it's just going to prompt the user with a blank screen, but we don't exactly want that. So what we want to do is we want to give the user a prompt to answer to. So in this case, I can say something like enter your name, just like that. So when we run this program, it's going to ask the user to enter their name, and whatever they enter is going to be set equal to name. So to test that out, we'll go ahead and print out you entered, how do you spell entered? There you go. You entered name. So if they enter, Winston, it'll say you entered Winston. If they entered Hunter, it'll say you entered Hunter. So let's go ahead and run this and test it out. And then let me pick this up. And it's taking a minute to load. Okay, so just like how we programmed, we set it equal to some input. We gave the user a prompt. We asked them to enter their name. So we'll enter something like Schmidt. Yes, I'm watching New Girls lately. How do you spell it? Schmidt. I think that's how you spell it. And then we're going to get printed out, you entered Schmidt, because that's exactly what we wanted printed. You entered, and then whatever they use as input. So let's try that one more time, and let's try a different name. So I'll run this, and we'll get enter your name. So I'll go ahead and enter my name for now, and then we'll get you entered Hunter. So we're able to take in input from the users. We can make this more practical. Let's say we need the user to enter in their email. We'll set that equal to some input, and we'll prompt the user to enter your email. And then we'll change this to your name is, and then we'll also print out your email is, and then whatever they entered for their email. So let's run this. Let me clear my terminal. Let's run this and let's see what we get. So we have to enter our name. So I'll enter mine, and then we have to enter our email. So I'll go ahead and enter in some email, and then we get that printed out right below us. So we get your name is, and then Hunter, because I entered Hunter for our name, and then we get your email is huntermacias@gmail, because that's exactly what I entered for Gmail. Now there are different types of inputs too. So these are string inputs. String inputs, and what I mean by that is, since the user entered Hunter right here, the this name variable is going to be a string type variable. So it even says it right there if you hover over it. But let's say we want to take in an integer input, so some number, right? So what we could do is, let's say we have a variable called age, and we want to ask the user to enter in their age. So we'll set that equal to an input, but more specifically, we want an int input. So to do that, we just have to surround our input with this int function. And what that's going to do is it's going to take whatever the user enters and convert that into a number. So now inside of here, I'll again ask the user to enter something. So I'll say enter your age, and then we'll print out age right below it. You are age years old. And then if we hover over age, notice how this type is an int, whereas email and name, they're both strings. So if we run this one, I'm going to save it. Run. Oh, I should clear my screen. That's fine. Okay. Let's watch this one run. Taking a good minute. There it goes. So we'll enter our name, enter Hunter, enter email, we'll say hunter@gmail.com. We get that working, and then we get prompted with what we put in our age input, which was enter your age. So now I can enter something like 75. And we're going to get you are 75 years old. 75 years old because that's exactly what we wanted printed. You are whatever value they entered, years old. And in this case, it was you are 75 years old. Now, very similar to how in the last video we talked about strings and integers and floats. Well, we could do the same thing with input. We were able to take in a string input. We're able to take in an integer input. Let me leave this comment right here, integer inputs. And we can also take in floats. So float input, which again are just decimal points. And to do that, it's going to be very similar to how we did with int, but with float. So let's say we wanted to take in a value for, so what would be a good value? We could do temperature. So we can ask the user, like, how hot or cold is it outside? Temperature is going to be equal to an input, but specifically we want this to be a float input. So we'll surround our input with our float keyword, and if we hover over temperature, it'll tell us, hey, the type of variable this is a float. So we can prompt the user with something. So we'll say enter, or we'll just say, how cold is it outside? And then we'll print it out right below it. It is temperature degrees outside. So if we run this, we're gonna have to enter in all of this stuff above us. That's fine. We can go through that really quickly. So first thing we want to do is enter our name. We'll enter Hunter. Then we'll enter in some email, and we'll get that printed out right below us. We'll get an age. We'll try 32 this time. We get that. And then now, since this is a float, we could enter a whole number. So to try that out, we'll just enter 23, and we're going to get 23.0 because, again, this is a float, so it's going to automatically convert whatever we enter into a decimal point. Now we could be more specific and do something here. Let me actually clear my screen. We could do, let's go through all this stuff again. Age, we'll say 61. How cold is it? We'll say it is 28.6 degrees out, and we'll get that. It is 28.6 degrees out. So yeah, so that's how you take in different types of input. So you have string inputs, you have integer inputs, and you have float inputs. Every time I ran this, though, we kept having to enter all of this stuff over and over and over again. So to avoid that, what you could do is you can comment out code. We briefly covered it a little bit in the last video, but what you could do is just highlight whatever code you want to comment out, and then if you're on a Windows, you would just click Control/, and if you're on a Mac, it would be Command/, and if you did that, it would look like this, and it'll just automatically comment it out. So now if I run this, since all this code is commented out, none of it's going to get ran. So it's going to skip right to enter, or to the temperature code we have. And we can say 52.45 and we'll get exactly that. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Just to recap again, we covered different types of input. We got string inputs, and to do that, all you need is to use the input function. Otherwise, if you want a specific type of input, you're going to have to typecast that input, and that's what this is. It's basically converting our input into an integer. And same thing with here, we're taking our input and putting it inside of our float function, and it's just converting whatever we enter into some float value. But yeah, that's it for today. Hope that was useful. Yeah, see ya.